Welcome to the latest episode of Beyond the Headline. This is where we take a press article and unpack it with a subject matter expert. We're going to talk about if the reporter got it right, got it wrong, or if there's just a different perspective that we want to add to the conversation. So today we're going to be doing that with Kristin Isaac, who's the CEO and co-founder of Strudel. Strudel is an AI-powered platform that helps engineers and technical support auto-detect failure before the users ever feel the impact. So before founding Strudel, she spent 20 years in enterprise go-to-market leadership, including senior roles at companies like LinkedIn, ESPN, and Disney. She was a customer success leader at LinkedIn and helped grow their EMEA business from 35 million to 75 million AR. And she built two 10 to 20 million revenue businesses from scratch. So she's been busy. We're really excited to have her on the show today. Kristin, tell the folks anything else they should know about you aside from that brief bio that I just read.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I'll just add that I'm obsessed with customer delight, both for my customers as well as my customers' customers. And I often get asked why we named ourselves Strudel. Not only is a strudel an apple strudel sweet, and we want to make our customers' lives sweeter, especially in tech support, customer success, and engineering. But the @ sign in Europe also is sometimes called strudel.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, thanks for touching on that because I'm sure folks were wondering what the context was with the name. I love it. I do love me a good apple strudel.
Yeah, you and me both.
Who doesn't?
Wasn't.
Awesome. Well, Kristen, I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today. So, for the folks at home, we are going to be unpacking a VentureBeat article today. So, the VentureBeat piece dug into a lot of data. It was a survey that was conducted of DevOps leaders. And really, what the findings of that report were was that while the software industry is racing to write code with AI, as we know, what it showed was that the industry is really struggling to make sure that that code actually holds up once it's shipped and it's in the environment deployed. So one of the first statistics that we're going to talk about was that they found that nearly half of that AI generated code, it was about 43%, required manual debugging in production even after it already passed quality assurance and staging tests. So, for folks who are maybe not in the engineering world, can you unpack for them what that actually means and what it looks like when that code fails in production?
Of course. A problem with code in production could look like a medical chart that doesn't load for a health tech company. It could look like a stock price that doesn't load for a fintech company. It could look like a live event where customers using your software product live on a tablet and it's not working at a normal speed. You get the circle that spins around and it's delayed and it's really awkward because you're standing there with your customer waiting for your own product to load. These are some of the types of issues in production that impact customers.
Mm. Yeah, that's not a good situation to be in if you're standing with a customer and you're waiting to show how fabulous your technology or your product is and it's not showing up.
Technology issues with customers are never fun.
Yes.
As
Yes.
a general rule.
So the survey found that there was not a single company that could verify an AI suggested fix with just one deployment cycle. So 88% of folks said they needed 2 or 3 attempts, and some needed as many as 6. So I can only imagine the time, the energy, the exhaustion that comes from needing to invest all of that. So what is that process costing companies?
Yeah, and that costs companies a lot beyond what you see on the surface value. So if you think about it from an engineering perspective, the cost is not just the time that they're spent fixing those issues, it's the opportunity cost of them not building products and features on the roadmap, which is ultimately your competitive advantage as a software company. For customer success and support, it means stalling customers when you don't have visibility into what's happening and you have no answers. And that leads to a negative experience, both for your employees as well as your customers. On a customer perspective, it could also mean silent churn. They have a bad experience with your team because not the team's fault, but just because the team doesn't have visibility into the data that they need to help the customers in a timely manner. And they get frustrated with the software or the product and they leave and they go somewhere else. So
Right.
there's a huge cost to these problems, even though it's not always easy to measure and calculate that cost across the company.
That makes sense. So obviously the time is a big part of it. And it's interesting because obviously, we want AI to save us time, but if we're actually creating more of a workload, then that's surely problematic. So they try to identify through the survey how much time these developers are actually spending to debug and work through these processes. So 38% of these folks' work week is spent on debugging, verification, and troubleshooting. So that's 2 full days essentially of the week. So you talked a little bit about it, about the drain, but does that align with what you're seeing with the customers that you're talking to? And I guess what's your reaction to that? That it's, 2 full days?
Yeah, we hear this from engineers all the time. It's making them incredibly faster to write code. Microsoft said that about a third of their code is AI generated at this point, and we hear all the time from engineers and engineering leaders that means, which is great, right? That means they're writing code much faster, they're building a lot faster. However, there is an increase in cost on the other side in production and in maintenance. And it's a little unclear if it's just that so much more code is being written and that just increases the burden
Mm,
of problems in production and bugs, or if it's also, sometimes engineering leaders tell us that AI also generates bugs that are harder to find and harder to spot.
mm,
And then there's the fact that the understanding of the code is inherently worse than it was before because human software engineers didn't write all the code. It was written also by AI. So there's an understanding gap on the back end as well. And we're hearing this pretty consistently across the board from engineers and engineering leaders.
mm. So if there are all these problems with the AI generated code, but the adoption keeps accelerating, obviously at a catch 22. Is this a solvable problem?
Absolutely. I don't think the answer is to slow down or stop, AI written code or using AI tools. I think it's just a gap in the observation layer and the investigation layer today. I would compare it to when cloud came out initially. New observability tools and features came out to solve the problems that were new because people were using cloud in a different way than ever before, and things were moving faster that way. And I see it the same again. Codes being written with AI coding tools in a much faster and more efficient way. It means that there's just more problems on the other side that need to be solved by new tools today. The tools that we have were inherently set up for human engineers, and we need new tools that operate at AI speed.
Do you think that folks are realizing that? The statement that you just made, is that well known, and are folks catching up to identifying those tools and making this problem solvable?
Getting there, there is a trust gap. There's a gap with engineers in terms of some of the AI generated code, and of course, there have been some really major problems with AI generated code at huge companies like Amazon and others. That have caused outages. And so there is a bit of a trust gap. And I actually do see some companies, especially in highly regulated areas, moving more to virtual private cloud and doing things to try to protect their data a little bit better from AI. And yes, absolutely also see companies moving towards new tooling and being open to trying new ways to solve these problems so that they can continue to accelerate
Mhm.
and move faster, and also get more visibility and understanding of the code in production to help resolve these issues faster.
So Strudel is basically sitting like right at this intersection that we're talking about when the code breaks and then the engineers are scrambling to try to figure out exactly what happened. So I can imagine that when you were reading this data and looking through the report, you're probably like, yes, yes, yes. Is that an accurate assumption? What were your thoughts and reactions in looking at some of these findings?
Yeah, it was really validating to read the report. So, because I think it really confirms the gap between QA and production is real and it's widening with AI tools. So, It was great to read the article, and also it surprised me to see things like what Google said in terms of their increase in code instability with
Mm.
AI generated code and things like that. It's always interesting for me to hear about some of the biggest players in AI and how they're addressing the problems that come up with so many resources, right?
Mhm.
And then I have to think about a lot of SMB and enterprise customers who are much, much, much smaller than Google and have far fewer resources and how they're addressing these issues.
Do you think there is still just a big gap? I mean, obviously, it's one thing when you're a huge player, and to your point, you have all those resources, and then when you don't, you have to prioritize where the money, where the time gets spent. Do you foresee this continuing to be a problem for maybe some of those smaller companies, the SMBs?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is where tools become important again because, scalable tools, because right now token costs are somewhat unlimited on LLMs, and there's a lot of people building all sorts of things. You could kind of think about it like, should we build our own billing tool? Should we build our own CRM? Should we build, largely because, and somewhat I think because the tools are new and fun to use, and also because token costs are still relatively low. I don't expect that to be the case in the future. And a number of other things. You have people just kind of, trying to hack together and build things themselves. But I do believe over time, not only does this problem get worse as more code is built with AI tools, but also the cost of tokens will for sure go up over time. We're building data centers like crazy, and but it's inherent that token cost is going to go up. And so, yeah, I believe over time, the value of a tool like Strudel to come in and just instantly see value and be able to give visibility into your bugs in production, into technical support issues, and resolve these, in 1/3 of the time than ever before is going to become more and more valuable over time.
That makes sense. That makes complete sense. So, you talked a little bit about the trust problem. I want to dig a little bit deeper into that. If AI generated code and obviously AI as a whole, the way we're using it in all the ways, it's moving faster than really I think we're ready for. So in an instance like this where we're seeing the data and we're saying, we're seeing that so much time, so much energy, money is being invested to try to fix what AI has done. How do engineers start to regain that trust in these systems when things are just kind of they're moving fast?
Yeah, I believe the way is to build trust back by getting that production data in real time. And this is largely what Strudel's focused on. But we're focused on the holy grail of engineering teams knowing before customers do about problems in production, being able to help them deduplicate and kind of bring up those novel cases. And, we'll create tickets for them to resolve them before customers are impacted. And same with support, giving that production data, the logs, the code, the important technical information in real time, and maybe customer success as well, depending on your setup, so that you have visibility and understanding into what's happening across the team. And
Mhm.
that's how I believe you build trust back.
Mm. That makes complete sense. Let's hope that, folks can regain that trust and work towards it. But yeah, it's obviously an incredible gap that Strudel is filling, especially in this moment in time in our history with AI and how fast it's evolving.
It's a really
So
base. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine you probably are up late at night thinking about all the things and how fast it's going and what else you could be doing. And
Guilty as charged.
yes, yes, that founder lifestyle, you can't help it.
Right.
So if there's a developer engineer who's listening and he's like him or her nodding their head saying like yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm feeling the pain. Talk to them more just on really how Strudel solves this problem and what the process is like working with y'all.
Yeah, so we've worked really hard to have a very easy setup and integration process and to show value very quickly. We aim to work in your existing workflow and with your existing tools so that we're not introducing a new interface. Our goal is to just speed things up. We have proven that we can reduce mean time to resolution by 65%, reduce the time engineers are spending on these problems by 20%, and we can surface root cause with 95% accuracy within seconds of the ticket arriving. And the way that we're doing that is with two products. One's called Error Guard, And that product is taking data from observability. So one of our recent customers had over 100,000 errors per week coming out of their Datadog observability tool. And we were able to deduplicate that down to less than 200 and then pull out the 3 to 5 per week maximum that are most important for engineers to resolve before customers are impacted, and create the ticket for the engineering team to go ahead and do that. So that's
Wow.
the engineering side of the single pane of glass. We think about the single pane of glass for technical support as, customers and customer success, tech support, and engineering. And
Mhm.
EricGuard is really coming at it from the engineering perspective. And then we have a product called Knowledge Scout that's coming at it from from more the customer facing side. And so that's doing the diagnosis of technical support issues after they've come in. And I mentioned, we pull in contextually relevant information from historical tickets, from documentation, from logs,
Mm.
sometimes from communication tools like Slack. And we can put the root cause right there in the engineering ticket when it comes up with 95% accuracy.
Wow.
And so this is really a game changer for the entire customer facing team and the engineering team, because all of a sudden, instead of manually searching through several different tools and really oftentimes looking for a needle in a haystack, you are just given the information in real time, and Strudel translates it to be able to communicate in the way that matters most for the engineer versus the tech support person versus the customer success
Mm.
person.
It's amazing. Those are some incredible statistics. With the 95% accuracy, that's amazing. So what are I'm curious, what are some of the industries that y'all have seen that you think are really struggling that, for example, need something like Strudel the most? Are there specific industries you're really honing in on and focusing on?
Well, largely because we're based here in the Midwest, we're largely focused on manufacturing tech and health tech, our
Mm.
biggest verticals, followed by fintech. That said, really any software company that works with customers has technical support issues, because software, regresses over time, and of course, all these issues that we've talked about today in terms of using AI coding agents create issues in production. And I don't see a world where there are not going to be issues in production that you don't need something like Strudel to help with technical support issues. If anything, just putting the customer first and making sure that they feel supported and aware of what the issue is, if it's reoccurring, if it's a one-off, how long it will take to fix.
Mm.
It's kind of a no-brainer when you think about protecting your revenue and your current customers and providing, the best experience, really delighting your customers.
Mm. I couldn't agree more.
Thanks.
So, anything else? I know we kind of covered a lot of different things like the trust piece, the problem just, moving so fast, what actually happens when things break. Anything else that you feel like we didn't touch on that you think is important to cover within the context of this conversation?
It's just worth recognizing that the companies who figure this out win.
Mm.
And, there's maybe a 12 to 18-month window to get ahead of this and get the right infrastructure in place. I mentioned the changes that happened when we introduced cloud. Again, I think introducing all these AI tools is another opportunity both to move faster as well as to introduce better tooling that supports those AI tools to move faster. And so anyone who wants to chat more about this, DM me on LinkedIn, shoot me an email at kristen@strudel.io, or follow my newsletter on LinkedIn, and would love to keep in touch and continue the conversation.
Amazing. You covered my last question, which was how can folks get in touch with you or learn more about Strudel? So,
Sounds
check
good.
mark.
Check, check.
Check. Well, Kristen, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for digging into this topic with us. And it was an incredible conversation. Look forward to seeing what Strudel gets into later on.
Thanks, Lisa. You're the best.
Yeah, you have a good one.
Thanks. Bye.